light shining, rainbow, beautiful, exploding nova coach, you. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you're here today because I've got more wonderful, exciting things to share with you. I'm Ben Dooley, MCC coach, trainer, grower of masterful coaches. And these videos, if you don't know by now, this is your first one. Welcome, glad you're in. If you watched a bunch already, you know. These are a wide range of variety of insights and discoveries and deeper layers of our coaching, sinking you deeper into that beautiful world and helping you shine your light more powerfully. And today I wanted to, all of this really typically comes from the work that I do with other coaches just like you. And we start talking about things and we start revealing and discovering parts of their coaching. And then I go, there's other coaches who need to know this. I certainly take note of it for myself. I need to remember that for myself. And then I get to pass it on to you as well. And today I was talking with a coach, and this is going to sound a little convoluted, but stay with me. She was talking about, she's in my class, and I had mentioned in class about how there's a myth, and we get stuck with, like, well, don't focus on the problem, focus on the person. And I said, well, that's a bunch of crap. It is. It's a bunch of crap. Don't focus on the problem. Just focus on the person. What are you focusing on the person about? What's the purpose of focusing on the person? What are you focusing on the person in order for what? Why? It's so that they can fix the problem. Now, this instruction is to prevent you from fixing the problem. But that doesn't mean ignore and dismiss the problem and the client is the only important thing. So I started crafting this in a language that helped the client understand a little better, because we've got a problem, which is an object, whatever you want, object. My special Be-Do pen. Ooh, Be-Do pen. You can get one too if you sign up for my class. So, so imagine client's problem. And what we then typically do is we shine a light onto the problem. We try to break apart the problem. We try to look deeper into the problem. We try to explore and look and see all the different angles and components and parts. And maybe we take apart the problem and then we try to put the problem back together in a better, different way. And then we try to see how the problem will work and all these things that we're just focusing on the problem. And of course you see the problem with focusing on the problem. And by the way, there's other videos I've done in the past about focusing on the problem and the problem with focusing on the problem. And there's a problem with that. And that's not coaching. But neither is just focusing on the person. All that is a lovely personal growth, personal discovery, awareness type thing. It's great to open up and have that discovery, but to what end? I'll tell you exactly to what end. It's so that the client can focus on the problem. And so that the two of you are actually working on the problem, but you're doing it through the client. So now, instead, I didn't bring props, so just go stay with me. So now, think about it this way, that your client is actually the lens, and you're shining your light onto this problem through the client. Does that make sense? Because you're not handling the problem. Your client is handling the problem. It's their problem, and it's their responsibility, and they get to own it. But you are giving your attention on the problem through the client. This is where we get those beautiful coachy questions like, well, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you noticing? What's here? What's that? What's this? That? What are you? What are you? What are you? We're going into the client, but we're continuing through the client in the context of the problem, right? Because if we just say, well, what are you noticing? About what? Well, I'm noticing my butt's getting a little crampy. I'm noticing that I'm thirsty. I'm noticing that this. I'm noticing that. A lot of stuff that we're noticing and a lot of stuff that we're feeling and a lot of stuff that we're thinking and a lot of stuff that's going on that has nothing to do with what we're really talking about. So we keep it in that context, not focusing on the problem, focusing on the problem through the client. In other words, we're having a context and a container and a purpose and a direction. That's why we have an agenda. I'm not saying anything new. I'm just pointing. We get conflicting instructions, and let's clarify. Because establishing the agenda and the agreement is entirely focusing on the problem. We're focusing on it through the client. Okay. That's just coaching. That's basic coaching. But you, dear coach, you are here for MCC Insights and Secrets. And I'm going to share one with you, as I do on all of these. I don't necessarily label all of them as this is not in a core competency. This is an extra little layer that's going to help make a profound difference. Imagine instead of just having, a lens or a mirror or window or something like that where you're shining your light through. So now imagine, what is this actually made of? Because if you shine a light through a dirty, grimy, smudgy window, then it makes the light a lot harder to get through. And I know you've had coaching that really feels like that. You're trying to go through the client. You're trying to access their wisdom and their experience and evoke awareness and really listen more deeply to them. And it's just hard because you got all this dirt and sludge and grime and stuff that's just making it hard to go through. Right? Or if it's opaque and fuzzy and cloudy, and then it's diffusing the light, so only a little light is getting through. So all of these metaphors for how our coaching can often end up being. But here's that little secret. Well, first off, recognizing that any light going through is better than no light at all, and it's going to help in some way. But ideally, if you can take whatever is your client, clean off all the smudges, help clarify and help it sharpen and get sparkly and brighter so that more light passes through. But even better, find the prism in your client. Find the prism, and you know what happens when you shine a light through the prism. The prism is an amazing, simple object. It's just a triangle. But what it does is it takes that light and it splits it into all these different colors. We typically identify like 7 or 8 of them, but there's actually variations in between. That whole rainbow and prism spectrum of colors. And that gets to shine on the problem. Or instead of a prism, you get a magnifying glass. And then it absolutely expands and deepens. Or when you shine a light through a magnifying glass, it concentrates the light and makes it even sharper. And you can actually light things on fire, and you can burn, and you can do beautiful, amazing things with that. See, it's actually not just shining the light through the client, it's actually modifying and adjusting the lens of your client. And you do that by helping them get brighter and sharper and find their angles and their contours and all of their shapes inside. And that is what then takes the light that you're putting in, and it alters and magnifies and sharpens and expands and opens and all these things. And that goes on to the problem that the client gets to do. Now, I'm playing with this big metaphor, and it's not like necessarily do anything, but just to remember, you get to choose what part of your client are you actually shining your coaching light onto and through. And if you notice that you're shining through a dirty, fuzzy, smudgy, opaque window, take some time to clean it up a little bit. And if you notice that it's just a nice, simple, plain window, and it's not really doing anything with the light, that's okay. It's better than nothing, and it's a beginning. But then see how you can adjust and modify. Look for those angles that creates more of a rainbow and more of a spectrum. Look for those parts of the client that gets to concentrate and focus on that energy. Look for all the different lenses in your client. Even look at the glasses, right? I mean, these are just corrective for me, but they alter the light that's coming in. They alter my perception. They alter how I see. They're transition, so they also get dark in the sunlight. That has an impact of the light that comes through. I mean, it's all that metaphor stuff. But play around with this, explore this, see what happens for you. And I bet that if you just recognize and look to the prism, look to the lens, look to the magnifying glass, look to the contours and the angles of your client, rather than the flat and the boring, go into the client and find those angles and layers and contours. And you're going to notice your coaching light suddenly altering, shifting, expanding, focusing, deepening, brightening, everything in onto, through your client and their lens, onto the problem. That is when really amazing things happen. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So that wraps up here. I hope this helps and inspires. It certainly does me. Come back for more. Contact me. Join the class. All that other stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. And until then, happy coaching.